Stop scrolling for the next 30 seconds, because something inside your life is ready to shift. You may not see it yet, but the version of you that has been waiting, struggling, doubting, and staying silent is running out of excuses. 1 hour can change a decision. One decision can change a direction. And one direction can change an entire life. So listen carefully. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for permission. The silence ends now. There comes a moment when you realize that nobody is coming to rescue you. Nobody is going to knock on your door and announce that today is the day everything changes. Nobody is going to hand you the perfect opportunity, remove every obstacle, erase every mistake, or guarantee that you will succeed. And at first, that realization can feel terrifying. But eventually, if you understand it correctly, it becomes one of the most liberating truths you will ever discover. Because when you stop waiting for someone else to change your life, you finally realize that you have been holding the power all along. Maybe you have been waiting for confidence, waiting until you feel ready, waiting until you have more money, more time, more support, more knowledge, or more certainty. Maybe you have been telling yourself that you will begin when life becomes easier. But life rarely becomes easier before you begin. Sometimes you have to begin while you're uncertain. You have to move while you're afraid. You have to take action while your hands are shaking and your mind is telling you that you are not prepared. The world rewards movement, not perfect movement, not fearless movement, just movement. Think about how many dreams have remained trapped inside people because they kept waiting for the perfect moment. They waited until the circumstances were ideal, until everyone approved, until the fear disappeared. And years passed. The opportunity didn't necessarily disappear because they weren't talented enough. It disappeared because they kept postponing the first step. You don't need to fix your entire life today. You don't need to know exactly where you will be 5 years from now. You don't even need to have the entire plan figured out. You simply need to stop standing still. Take one step, make one decision, complete one task, send one message, open the book, start the workout, write the first sentence. Apply for the opportunity. Turn off the distraction. Whatever your next move is, make it. Because action creates clarity. You often discover the next step only after taking the current one. You don't think your way into confidence. You act your way into confidence. You don't wait for motivation and then become disciplined. You practice discipline and motivation often follows. This is why the next hour matters. Not because 60 minutes possesses some magical power, but because you can use 60 minutes to prove something to yourself. You can prove that your old habits don't completely control you. You can prove that you are capable of focusing. You can prove that you can keep a promise to yourself. You can prove that the voice saying you can't is not the final authority over your life. Imagine what would happen if you stopped asking, "What if I fail?" and started asking, "What happens if I never try?" That question changes everything. Failure may teach you. Rejection may redirect you. Mistakes may strengthen you, but staying frozen teaches you almost nothing except how to remain frozen. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for someone to believe in you before you decide to believe in yourself. You are allowed to begin before you're ready. You are allowed to begin with fear. You are allowed to begin with nothing more than a small amount of hope and a decision that says, "I refuse to stay here." Your life does not change because you wish harder. It changes when your choices change, and your choices can change today. Maybe this hour won't solve everything. That's okay. Let this hour solve one thing. Let it solve your hesitation. Let it break the pattern of waiting. Let it become the moment you finally move. Because once you move, you are no longer the person standing at the starting line wondering what could have happened. You are the person who started. And sometimes starting is the most powerful thing you can do. You cannot build a new life while constantly obeying the limitations of your old identity. At some point, you have to understand that the person you used to be is not a life sentence. Your past may explain where you came from, but it does not have the authority to decide where you are going. You have made mistakes, you have experienced rejection, you have disappointed yourself. Maybe people have underestimated you, judged you, or convinced you that you were incapable of becoming something greater. But none of those things have to become your permanent identity. There is a dangerous habit that many people develop without realizing it. They keep introducing themselves to the world through their past. I'm not confident. I'm not disciplined. I've always been unlucky. I never finish anything. I'm just not good at this. Every time you repeat those statements, you reinforce an identity that may no longer serve you. Your mind begins accepting those descriptions as instructions. But what if you change the language? Instead of saying, I'm not disciplined, say, I'm learning discipline. Instead of saying, I'm not confident, say, I'm becoming more confident every day. Instead of saying, I always fail, say, I have failed before, but I am still moving. That difference may seem small, but it represents a completely different relationship with yourself. You don't need to pretend that your past never happened. You need to stop allowing your past to become your prison. The version of you that made mistakes was operating with the knowledge, maturity, circumstances, and awareness available at that time. Today, you know more. You have experienced more. You have survived things you once thought would destroy you. That means you are not the same person anymore. So why keep punishing your present for the mistakes of your past? Why keep carrying an identity that was created during a chapter that has already ended? There's a new version of you trying to emerge, but it requires you to release the old story. And releasing the old story does not mean forgetting everything. It means refusing to use yesterday as evidence against tomorrow. You may have been rejected before. That doesn't mean you are destined to be rejected forever. You may have failed before. That doesn't mean your next attempt will fail. You may have been ignored before. That doesn't mean your voice has no value. You may have lost before. That doesn't mean you cannot win. Your identity is built through repeated choices. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you become more trustworthy to yourself. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen your character. Every time you stand back up after disappointment, you become harder to break. This is how transformation happens. Not through one dramatic moment, but through hundreds of small decisions that quietly tell your mind, I am different now. And you don't need everyone to recognize the change immediately. Some people will continue treating you according to the person they remember. Let them. Their perception doesn't define your progress. You don't need to convince everyone that you've changed. Your results will eventually speak for you. Your responsibility is not to perform your transformation for an audience. Your responsibility is to live it. So today, stop asking, who have I always been? Ask yourself, who am I becoming? That question opens a door. Maybe you are becoming disciplined. Maybe you are becoming courageous. Maybe you are becoming focused. Maybe you are becoming patient. Maybe you are becoming someone who no longer begs for approval. Whatever that new identity is, begin practicing it now. Because your future self is not created by what you wish to become. Your future self is created by what you repeatedly choose to do. The old identity says, this is impossible. The new identity says, let's find a way. The old identity says, I'm afraid. The new identity says, I'm afraid, but I'm moving. The old identity says, what will they think? The new identity says, what will I think of myself if I never try? That is where your life begins to change. Not when the world finally recognizes you, not when everything becomes easy, but when you finally decide that your past has taught you enough and it no longer gets to control you. You are not finished. You are not trapped. You are not your worst day. You are not your biggest mistake. You are becoming someone stronger than the person who once thought they couldn't. There is a decision you have been avoiding because you already know it will demand something from you. Or maybe it will demand courage, maybe discipline, maybe the willingness to disappoint someone. Maybe it will require you to leave something comfortable behind and step towards something uncertain. Whatever that decision is, you can feel it sitting in the back of your mind. You think about it when the room gets quiet. You remember it when you're alone. And every time you postpone it, you tell yourself, I'll deal with it later. But later has a way of becoming never. You don't need another month to think about it. You don't need another 100 opinions. You don't need perfect certainty. Sometimes the clarity you've been waiting for only appears after you make the decision and start moving. Fear will always give you reasons to stay exactly where you are. It will tell you that you're not ready. It will remind you of everything that could go wrong. It will show you the worst possible outcome and convince you that doing nothing is safer. But doing nothing has a cost too. Every day you delay a decision that you know you need to make, you pay with energy. You pay with focus. You pay with peace. You carry the unresolved question into everything else you do. And eventually the question becomes heavier than the action itself. So ask yourself honestly, what have I been avoiding? Is there a conversation you need to have? Is there a goal you need to finally begin? Is there a habit you need to break? Is there an opportunity you need to pursue? Is there something you need to walk away from? Is there a dream you keep postponing because you're afraid of discovering what you're capable of? You don't have to solve your entire future tonight. You only need to make the next honest decision. One decision can create momentum. Think about a person standing at the bottom of a mountain. If they stare at the peak long enough, the mountain looks impossible. But they don't climb the entire mountain in one movement. They take one step, then another, then another. Eventually, distance disappears beneath their feet. Your life works the same way. You don't need to know every step. You need to take the next one. Maybe your next step is spending one focused hour learning something that could change your career. Maybe it is finally organizing your finances. Maybe it is writing the first page of the book you've talked about for years. Maybe it is turning off your phone and giving your attention to the goal you've neglected. Whatever it is, make it real. Don't just think about the action, take it. Because thinking creates possibilities, but action creates evidence. When you take action, you prove to yourself that you are capable of moving despite fear. That evidence becomes confidence. Confidence creates momentum. Momentum makes the next decision easier. And understand this, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that your future matters more than your fear. You might still feel nervous. Your heart might still race. You might still question yourself. That's okay. You don't have to feel powerful before you act powerful. Move anyway. This hour can become the moment you stop negotiating with the life you know you want. Don't wait for a dramatic sign. Don't wait until every doubt disappears. Don't wait until everyone agrees with you. Make the decision that your future self will thank you for. Because months from now, you may look back at this exact moment and realize that everything started with one choice, one uncomfortable choice, one courageous decision, 1 hour when you finally stopped saying someday and started saying today. Your future does not need you to be perfect. It needs you to be decisive. So choose, move, begin, and let your actions introduce you to the person you are becoming. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own, yet most people give it away without realizing what it is costing them. Every notification, every argument, every unnecessary opinion, every endless scroll, and every distraction takes a small piece of your focus. One distraction may seem harmless, but repeated distractions can quietly consume hours, days, and eventually years. And while you are giving your attention to everything around you, your own goals are waiting in silence. That is why you need to become protective of your attention. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not every message requires an immediate response. Not every argument deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your consideration. And not every opportunity deserves your time. You have to learn the difference between what is urgent and what is important. The world will constantly try to pull you in different directions. Someone will always have something to say. Someone will always have a problem. Someone will always want your reaction. Social media will always have another video. Your phone will always have another notification. There will always be something competing for your attention. But your future cannot compete successfully with 1,000 distractions if you keep inviting those distractions into your life. Think about what could happen if you gave your biggest goal your undivided attention for just 1 hour. No scrolling, no unnecessary conversations, no checking every notification, no jumping between 10 different tasks, just one goal, one direction, 1 hour. You might discover that you are far more capable than you believed. The problem is often not that you lack time. The problem is that your attention is fragmented. You sit down to work, then check your phone. You return to the task, then open another application. You try to concentrate, then remember something someone said. Before you know it, an hour has passed, but you have accomplished almost nothing meaningful. This is how distraction steals your future. Not all at once, but minute by minute. So reclaim those minutes. For the next hour, create silence. Put your phone away if you can. Close unnecessary tabs. Step away from conversations that don't matter. Give your mind permission to stop reacting to everything. You don't need the entire world to become quiet. You need to become quiet inside yourself. When your attention becomes focused, your thoughts become clearer. When your thoughts become clearer, your decisions become stronger. And when your decisions become stronger, your actions become more effective. This is why focus is not simply a productivity skill. It is a form of self-respect. When you focus on something meaningful, you are telling yourself, my future matters. You are saying, my goals deserve my attention. You are saying, I don't need to chase every distraction. And eventually, this becomes part of your identity. You become the person who can sit with discomfort without escaping into entertainment. You become the person who can work when nobody is watching. You become the person who can delay instant pleasure for something greater. That person is dangerous to every limitation that once controlled them. So protect your attention, protect your mornings, protect your quiet moments. Protect your goals from unnecessary noise. You don't need to explain why you're focusing. You don't need everyone to understand your priorities. Sometimes the most powerful move is simply becoming unavailable for distractions. Remember, whatever receives your attention repeatedly will eventually influence your life. If you constantly focus on fear, fear grows. If you constantly focus on comparison, insecurity grows. If you constantly focus on problems, problems consume you. But if you focus on solutions, growth, discipline, learning, and progress, you begin becoming someone different. So for this next hour, choose carefully. Choose one thing that matters. Give it everything you have. Let the world wait. Let the notifications wait. Let the opinions wait. Your future deserves an hour of your undivided attention. And when that hour is over, you may realize something powerful. You didn't need more time, you needed more focus. And once you learn how to control your attention, you begin taking control of your direction and eventually your life. When this hour ends, do not make the mistake of thinking that your transformation is finished. The purpose of this hour was never to magically solve your entire life. It was to prove that you can interrupt the pattern that has kept you stuck. It was to show you that you can make a decision, take action, protect your attention, and become intentional about where your life is going. The real power begins when you refuse to return to the person you were before this moment. You don't need one perfect day. You need consistency. 1 hour of focus can inspire you, but repeated hours of focus can transform you. One courageous decision can change your direction, but repeated courageous decisions can change your identity. One disciplined morning can make you feel powerful, but disciplined mornings repeated over weeks and months can create a completely different life. That is why you cannot depend on motivation alone. Motivation rises and falls. Some days you will wake up excited. Other days you will wake up tired, frustrated, or uncertain. Some days everything will go according to plan. Other days you will feel like nothing is working. The person who only moves when they feel motivated will constantly start and stop. But the person who learns to move through discomfort becomes difficult to defeat. There will be mornings when you don't feel like working. Work anyway. There will be moments when you want to quit. Pause if you need to, but don't surrender. There will be days when nobody notices your effort. Keep going. There will be times when your progress feels invisible. Keep building. Because some of the most important growth in your life will happen before anyone else can see it. A seed doesn't look impressive while it is underground, but something is happening beneath the surface. Roots are forming. Strength is developing. Preparation is taking place. Your life can work the same way. You may not see immediate results from the choices you're making today. That's not a reason to stop. It is a reason to become patient. Stop demanding instant proof that your effort is working. Sometimes the first result is simply becoming stronger, then more focused, then more disciplined, then more confident. Eventually, the external results begin catching up with the internal transformation. And when that happens, people may call it luck. They may say you changed suddenly. They may wonder how you became so different. But you will know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was every small decision nobody saw. Every time you chose discipline over comfort. Every time you chose progress over excuses. Every time you chose silence over unnecessary drama. Every time you kept going when quitting would have been easier. That is how a new life is built. So when this hour ends, don't go searching for another dramatic moment. Create your own momentum. Tomorrow, take another step. The next day, take another. Keep your promises to yourself. If you make a mistake, don't use it as permission to return to your old identity. Correct yourself and continue. If you fall behind, restart. If you fail, learn. If you become distracted, refocus. If you lose confidence, remember what you have already survived. Your goal isn't to become someone who never struggles. Your goal is to become someone who no longer allows struggle to determine the ending. This is where the silence truly ends. Not because the world suddenly becomes quiet, but because the excuses inside your own mind become quieter than your determination. You stop asking whether you are capable. You start proving it. You stop waiting for permission. You give yourself permission. You stop looking for the perfect moment. You create the moment. And one day, you will look back at this version of yourself and realize something extraordinary. The life you wanted didn't begin when everything became easy. It began when you decided to keep going. So let this hour be more than an hour. Let it be a promise that you will no longer abandon yourself, a promise that you will protect your attention, a promise that you will act despite fear, a promise that you will keep becoming. Because your life can change in an hour, but your life becomes unrecognizable when you continue the change after the hour is over. The silence ends here. Now keep moving.